Kobe Manzo, Zach Keen, Division One Rejects, back at it again for week number 9 now of Division One Rejects. The weeks are just starting to, I guess, blend together a little bit, but each episode seems like we're producing out some pretty solid content, and today is no exception. First of all, we've got a quarterback from Michigan Tech joining us. We got Alex Freeze, who will be on the phone in just a few minutes, so excited for the conversation that we're going to have with him. Otherwise, we're going to get into the Heisman conversation, especially with Florida quarterback Kyle Trask, who has been making a push as of late to be potentially in one of the top 3 or 4 spots of that conversation. I think deservedly so. After that, we'll go into some deep discussion about Jim Harbaugh and whether or not his tenure in Ann Arbor with the Wolverines may be coming to an end after this season, depending on how they perform. Trailing off of that, we'll get into a bit of NFL talk on today's episode. Mostly about the NFC North, I think, with the Lions' game-winning field goal over the Redskins, and then obviously a big Monday Night Football win for the Vikings over the Chicago Bears. So super excited about all this episode's content, and thank you for watching if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. If you've got a place where you listen to podcasts, I'm pretty sure that we're on it. I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I think there's a pretty good chance that we are on that. But enough of that. Let's get right into this awesome conversation. Joining us today is a redshirt freshman quarterback from Michigan Tech, former Dream Team quarterback at Swan Valley High School in Saginaw, Michigan, Alex Freeze. What's going on, Alex?
How's it going?
Doing all right, man. It's been, trying to keep it uplifting and positive here on the podcast, but I can't tell you, man, this campus feels pretty empty. Everybody's heading home for break. Football's been shut down. How are you doing?
I'm trying to keep the same positive attitude that you're keeping. It's been definitely a hurdle each week with all the new changes going on throughout. Mainly the GLIAC. But yeah, just trying to survive and adapt with every challenge, especially with school.
I feel like that's how you have to approach it, because if you don't, then you're literally just going to let all of that kind of drag you down. And I've seen some guys just get so when you don't have a lot going on besides just football and school, and to get football taken away from you like that. I know you guys have gone through some of that stuff too. If you just let that get a hold of you, and it really is just a downhill spiral. So I'm glad that hopefully we'll get some football here in the spring. I'm sure you feel the same way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have up to 5, they said, scrimmages or games played. What does that mean for you looking at it? I'm not really sure what to make of that so far.
I'm excited, honestly, for every opportunity. We were lucky enough this fall. I'm not really sure how the situation was at Northern, but we were lucky enough to have 15 padded practices this fall.
Gotcha.
So really, it's a great time to install a lot of, especially for my class and your class specifically. It's obviously a strange introduction to football, but it's definitely gonna be almost a good opportunity if you want to look at it like that, just to kind of transition to that college experience and that college level of play.
Yeah, like you said, it's not the normal transition that somebody might get, but it is still the college transition. I know for us, new offensive coordinator here at Northern, so it's not just install, obviously, for my class, but it's an install for our whole program, which is making this a little bit more difficult. You say you got 15 padded practices in?
Yeah, we got 15 padded practices in.
That's pretty good, man. You're doing better than us. I think we got about a week in where we actually had the full pads on, and we got to go suited up before we were shut down indefinitely. But you guys had to deal with, was it 2 different stints of being shut down as a program?
Yeah, we were definitely lucky enough to squeeze those 15 practices in right at the right time. But before that, we had, I want to say, 2 or 3 shutdowns throughout this entire fall semester, and whether that was lifting or just position meetings it was affecting. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting week every week.
Yeah, seriously. Now, what would you do when you got shut down? I know you're living in a house. Is that on campus?
No, we're living in Hancock actually. It's me
okay,
and 4
across okay, sweet, good stuff. What would you guys just all, I guess, just chilling out in the house, right? Was there much to do up there during the lockdown or what?
Honestly, I haven't even had an actual class on campus this semester.
Serious?
All of mine got switched right away. Yeah, so I've been bunkered down in the house for a while, but we keep each other accountable for everything, especially with workouts and stuff like that. Trying to make the most of whatever situation we're in at the house.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think I want to talk about with you is that, we're talking about here how our school is just our two schools, only two schools in the UP, about what, like 2.5 hours apart, and we've had these very different experiences so far with COVID, and we've got all these schools downstate in Michigan that are going through, the same pandemic, but very much different situations. I know Grand Valley went through a whole school-wide shutdown, but their football program, for some reason, was still able to practice, even though their school was on lockdown. I mean, for me, it makes me a little bit frustrated, obviously, because I haven't had these opportunities, and we all just want to get out there and put the pads on and play. I mean, what do you think about this? And I think it's so interesting. I guess interesting is a very nice way of putting it, that these other schools are able to go out there and practice. Even Northwood had their last practice, I believe, yesterday, and they've been practicing almost completely up until this point. Like, what kind of difference does that make between a program like that and us who, maybe only got a week or two of practice in?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is an odd situation. I remember listening to one of your earlier podcasts, and you were talking about how it's so weird that we're both, like, like you said, UP schools, which were already pretty isolated from the rest of the state, but those guys downstate are able to do that. I mean, yeah, like you said, definitely interesting in a nice way. But I know at Michigan Tech, at least, we're doing a really good job of testing like a certain percentage of our football team every week, just so we stay on top of all the COVID cases and all like the contact tracing and things of that nature. But I can definitely say that I expect, or not expect, I know a lot of the schools downstate really haven't been on top of that stuff.
Yeah, that might actually bring up a good point, because obviously if you don't test for it, you're not going to show any results. So I can't speak on, the processes of what they do, but that could definitely be a factor. I know we did some surveillance testing up here as well. About 30 of our guys were getting tested every week to make sure that wasn't going rampant on the football team, especially when you have so many guys on a roster. But like going in and out of football and like building your hopes up and like trying to get, like some momentum going with practice, especially with the new state order that went out that's going to shut us down as of today when we're recording this on Wednesday for 3 weeks. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but the plan is for high school football, who is in the regional semifinal round, I believe, is for them to continue playing and continue their postseason after that 3-week period. What is that going to be like for those teams?
That's definitely going to be, I mean, I give a lot of credit to those high schoolers right now for sticking in it and trying to like be as positive as possible, because that'd be tough, you know what I mean? Especially in senior season, having to bounce around your schedule like that. But, I mean, man, if they pick that up after 3 weeks, they're going to be playing late into the year with some football games, which will be pretty interesting, but it'll also be pretty significant for like the rest of their life, just having that memory with them.
No, that's true. I was thinking too, if we get, especially some of those teams that are more north up in Michigan, they got to get some heavy snow here pretty soon as we roll towards like the beginning of December. They might just have to start holding all these games in like Ford Field or other indoor facilities, like maybe renting out some college facilities. Like there are so many logistical things that go into this. I think it's just going to be a nightmare for them to finish it out. And I really hope that they finish out this season. Unfortunately, my high school is out of it. Is Swan Valley still in making a run for it or no?
No, they lost, I think, first round of playoffs actually too.
Same with us. It was a tough one to watch. My brother's a senior right now at Lake Orion, but you talk about like how difficult it is for that senior class right now, and it's only going to get more difficult, and it is right now as far as like recruiting goes, and that's like a two-way street with the colleges. How are colleges going to handle being able to recruit? I saw a great tweet today from one of the kids who's a senior. I forget where he goes to school, but I thought it was a great tweet. And he said, how are we supposed to make a 40-year decision, right, a college and onward onto your career, whatever, without having an official visit?
Yeah, that is really crazy to think about. Because honestly, that's what like sold it for me at Michigan Tech is if like when I made that official visit, that's when I was set on. Yeah. You know what I mean? Going to Tech, because like in the earlier stages of my recruitment, Michigan Tech wasn't like super high up on my radar, which is crazy to think about now. Seriously. But yeah, that official visit and just being on campus and being around, you know what I mean, your possible future teammates and the culture, that's a huge part of recruitment. Like it was for me at least, and I know a lot of other guys can attest to that. So that's definitely a crazy decision for these guys that are thinking about playing in the future. I think that's just wild. And I can attest to that too. I mean, I had a great time with you guys when I was up there on my official. Absolutely. You guys were awesome. And that's coming from a dude who's, at the rival school in the UP. But I just think that's such a unique situation. I don't think we're going to get really anything like that.
And I think it's,
No.
I wouldn't say it's a miracle, but I think it's pretty darn close that we've had this much of a college football season and the NFL that's going on right now. I feel like that's just kind of grounded us and brought us back to at least a little bit of normalcy, coming out of COVID and like all these
Yeah.
things have been shut down. What has that been like for you to just sit on the couch or whatever and watch some football on, Thursday through Monday?
Yeah, well, it's been tough for me and the guys at the house just because we're talking about it. Just doesn't feel like we're like actually like living in, you know what I mean, in
Yeah,
a football season.
I know it. I know
It
it.
feels like a fake football season. But on the bright side of it, we definitely have watched more football than probably we ever have.
Let's go.
Considering that we've been playing, you know what I mean. Every fall you play football for, you know what I mean, and that takes up all of your time.
Yeah.
You never really get a true chance to watch like the Monday night games, Thursday night games, and especially Saturdays.
Yeah.
So it's been definitely a good opportunity. Catch up on some football, check out some NFL action as well.
Hell yeah. No, I love that. That's kind of funny. Like you've watched more football now than ever just because of a lack of football. You're getting more football. This is a weird little like paradox, I guess, but
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, man. Who do you ride with in the NFL?
I'm always a Detroit guy. Me and
There we
Hunter
go.
Chambers will sit on the couch every Sunday
There
and
we go.
watch games start to finish.
Yeah. I mean, the hot topic for us the last couple weeks on D1 Rejects here, the podcast, has been Patricia, and not only Patricia, but the ownership of the Lions, obviously the Quins and the Fords, and just their ineptitude to make gut decisions. I mean, where do you stand with that and how this season's turning out so far?
Well, it's always pretty interesting. I mean, it's a nail biter each week. Deciding
Yes, it is a nail biter.
Is going to be there? Is he going to be there next week or not? So it's definitely always interesting in Detroit.
Oh, dude. Again, interesting is such a nice way of putting it.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, man. But Alex, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you for stopping and chat with me for a bit. And hey, stay safe down there. Have a great holiday, man.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. You too, buddy.
No problem. I'll see you. All right. Well, thank you, Alex. Great having him on the show. That's our second guy from Michigan Tech now that's been on the show. So always a pleasure to have those guys up from Houghton on. But let's get right into some college football talk. And the headline for me and for a lot of the country, at least the Midwest here, the Big Ten, which is the focus of this area, has been Harbaugh and his ineptitude. You like that? Ineptitude? His ineptitude to bring this Michigan Wolverine team to any sort of prowess, to any sort of big-time game where they really could prove themselves as a program, because they've been good. And I use good purposefully. They've been good for a large number of years, but they have not been great. And I think now the argument turns from, okay, there's no more excuses as he's growing the program or trying to bring them in the right direction, because he's been there since 2015. These excuses are running thin because he's had the chance to get multiple recruiting classes in the door. And now when you have all the guys there that you recruited and you pride yourself on that recruiting and you have all of these talented draft classes, but college classes, there's not a whole lot of room to squeeze out of anything anymore.
Exactly. And I think the biggest thing that I saw was he's consistently gotten great recruiting classes amongst the Big Ten and even the nation.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at that and just what he's accomplished, it's kind of just his downfall in what he's done with the program. And I mean, he's done amazing recruiting, and I mean, he's gotten to them to, I don't know how many 10-win seasons, but if you want to stay there, you're just going to be kind of that program that's always like, I mean, they're good, but they're not like playoff.
Great. Yeah.
They're not playoff contention type teams. And that's the biggest thing that what Ann Arbor wanted. They wanted teams that were going to take them to a Big Ten championship. They wanted a team that was going to, make a playoff run. And he just hasn't been able to do that. He hasn't been able to be his rival.
Yeah.
In Ohio State. So I think when you look at that with just the wide range of great recruiting classes that he's had, and like you said, since 2015, this is all of his recruiting classes right now.
Yeah.
This is all him. There's had
no
the time
more
to build.
past regime. There's none
exactly.
of that.
There's no like kids that are still under the old mentality type deal. Like this is all his recruiting. So I think when you look at that and just what he's accomplished thus far, it is kind of like disappointing to Michigan fans at least.
Very, and thankfully we are not in that boat. But you said it: 0-5 versus Ohio State, 3-3 versus Michigan State. So yes, he's beaten Michigan State, but not consistently. They're at 500, and that if you would have looked at that and looked at the records from those two teams over the last 6 seasons, There's no way that should even be 3-3, but they show up somehow. Even this year was a great example of how Michigan State just showed up. They're obviously a very mediocre team, and they still show up and beat Michigan. I don't understand how. I'm not complaining in any aspect. I'm definitely not complaining. They're 2-12 against top 10 teams in his tenure. That is something that the great coaches, they get over that hump, and they get over it, soon, because if they don't, then they're out of a job. So according to USA Today, Harbaugh has the 4th highest salary in college football behind Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, and Ed Orgeron at LSU. So those are great coaches, and those are ones that have gotten over that hump. But not only that, they've stayed there. They're all national champions, and their programs, respectively, are the best in the country. Yeah, Harbaugh's name does not belong with the rest of those 3. I mean, obviously, it's only there because of how much he's getting paid. And do you think that just comes from him coming from that NFL experience with the Ravens? Do you think that, or not the Ravens, 49ers?
49ers.
I get the brothers mixed up. But do you think that is why that large sum of money comes for that? And just like, obviously he's a great coach. We know that. But he just hasn't been able to bring this program there. Why are they paying him that much?
I think originally, like the original contract reasons for that was just because he was coming from the 49ers. He did take them to the Super Bowl. Obviously, they lost to the Ravens, but he did take them to the Super Bowl. There was just a ton of hype surrounding his name and trying to bring him back because, he was a alumni from there.
Exactly.
He did play there.
There's the obvious choice if you're...
Yeah, exactly. So he was around the program for a long time, and I think just everybody from like the U of M fan base really wanted him there at that time. And they knew that he was going to bring in a ton of revenue. His recruiting was going to be good.
It's very true.
But, they couldn't necessarily predict how well he was going to do or not. But I think that was the original reason why he got paid so much. It was just a little bit more hype than quality when they were thinking about his contract. But obviously, you can just see how it showed up now. He hasn't really produced that much and not even close to what he's getting paid. He shouldn't be getting paid that much. Because when you talk about the guys like Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, and Ed Orgeron, I think they all have something under their name, and that's a national championship. And I just don't think his tenure deserves the 4th highest salary in college football.
No way. And I think what's super interesting is we've seen you don't typically see from the NFL level to the college level from a coaching standpoint that jump. You don't see that very often because, professional down to what would really be compared to like a minor league, I guess, in college. Mm-hmm. But I think it's so interesting how exclusive those coaching circles are. You either come up in the NFL coaching scene or you come up in the college coaching scene, and you don't see a whole lot of interlap, between those circles. I think the one exception that you would see between those circles is if you have a guy who is like very close with and they've coached together in the past, and he gets a head coaching job or coordinator job at some program. You're going to bring your boys and you're going to go fill in that spot at whatever program you're at. You just don't see it very often. I guess the most recent case would be Matt Rule at Carolina from Baylor,
and then Cliff Kingsbury.
Cliff Kingsbury is another good example. I know with Matt Rule specifically, when he came into Carolina, they gave him I want to say like a 6 or 7 year deal. So not like he's going to be around for a long time in that program. And so that was a large reason of getting rid of, obviously the untimely retirement of Luke Kuechly was not something that he wanted. But getting rid of Cam Newton and guys who have been in the program for a long time, I shouldn't say program, but more the franchise, really, that have been in that franchise and are established. Cam Newton, it was believed by a lot of people to be in the later years of his career, although he has proven, I think, a lot of people wrong. It's not the season that we may have expected from Cam Newton and the Patriots, but with him fighting COVID and some other things, not to get too off topic here, but Matt Rule has started to make that transition. It'd be interesting to see, I think, in 2 years' time, maybe one, but I think more so like 2 years' time.
I think he could in 1 year. I think he could next year. But
you do?
Yeah, I think he could. I think he's showing promise in Carolina, and I think he's made the correct moves. But I do think max 2 years he will make that turnaround that Carolina is looking for.
That will be deciding like in 2 years' time from now to see if he's actually like rooted in the NFL scene. I think that'll be super interesting. But now, say Harbaugh is actually gone and out of Ann Arbor for good, who is the guy that we picked to be the next coach for the Wolverines? I know that Luke Fickell's name has been thrown around pretty often right now, the head coach for Cincinnati, who is number 7 in the country, I believe. So from one standpoint, you think coming out of the American Athletic Conference to the Big Ten, that's technically a jump, right? From a conference standpoint into a Power 5 conference, the program like Michigan. But his team's doing pretty well.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
another thing you have to look at. And there are so many things that go into a decision like this, a business decision outside of just a football program, depending on how long he's been in Cincinnati. Maybe his family's got roots in Cincinnati, all these other things. And he's obviously doing very well with that Bearcat program.
Oh, for sure.
It depends. I mean, if he's going to get paid the fourth highest salary in college football, it'd be hard to turn down.
Exactly. And I think that is one of the biggest things when you look at, job choices with coaching. And that was shown with Mel Tucker, I think.
Yeah,
he was doing good with Colorado. And
I mean, he wasn't definitely not to this level of success that Fickle has right now, but he was
turning Colorado around.
Yeah.
He was turning their recruiting around, and he was starting to build a program that could potentially become something really well. And after he had done so well, building, he was still in that process. State was like, okay, look, we're going to offer you this amount of money, and if you want to take it, you can come over here and you can start your, business over here. And he was like, okay, then I will.
And we saw the backlash from that too, though. A lot of the Colorado players felt like they had quite literally been stabbed in the back, he just left.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And they without warning or anything like that.
When you look at recruiting and everything like that, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and that's just how it is in college football.
Business.
It is a business, but you can't knock anybody for trying to feed their family or anything like
agreed.
that. So that's
agreed.
I think when you look at that, if one of your coaches leaves, you can't knock them for doing anything like that. It is what they're doing with their life. You wouldn't want anybody to knock you for making a financial decision in your life. So.
Yeah, the amount of coaches that leave to go to different schools are vastly underneath the amount of kids that transfer. You know what I mean? Kids who were previously committed to a school and entered that transfer portal. We see it now, especially at the Division II level, more prominently than ever.
Yeah.
We just got another a nickelback from Western Illinois, an FCS program who's transferring to Northern. So that's our second guy from Western Illinois that's transferred over, and just guys at that level who are not getting either the play time or whatever the case may be at that level, and they want to come to a school where they're going to be the guy and they're going to play. That's all. More power to you. More power to you. But getting out of that scene, I don't know. Is there? I couldn't really think of anyone else, but I know I'd heard Fickle's name thrown around a bit for that Michigan job, but I don't really think of anyone who comes in and fits that role immediately for them. They don't have the obvious choice like a Harbaugh who's already.
Yeah, they definitely don't have an obvious choice like they did before, but I do think what U of M does have is just the money that they are willing to pay the next guy. Yeah. And that's going to be the biggest thing, and I don't think they're going to have a tough time finding one for sure.
No, and let's transition over a little bit here, talk about the Heisman conversation so far in the college football scene, and a guy who's really come into this conversation in the last few weeks. I think he probably deserved to be in it from the beginning, but he was not, for whatever reason that may be yet to be determined. Kyle Trask out of Florida led the Gators to a 63-35 win over Arkansas. And this is what I loved. He was playing against the dude who used to start over him, Felipe Franks, who was the quarterback for Florida in years past, just last year, right? I want to say, or maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah,
but
I was going to say, I think Kyle Trask was playing last year.
He's in his Felipe Franks is in his last year now, but Trask threw for 6 touchdowns, 350 yards, and puts on a clinic for the guy that he used to watch from the sidelines. I think that storyline is hilarious. I think that's so funny. But Felipe Franks, he still had a game too. But Kyle Trask is up there, and we talked about ETN last week and how the running back was the only non-quarterback right now in the race, and how he had that off game and against Notre Dame, and now it's really just back to quarterbacks, which for me is that's usually how it goes. It's just so bland. It's so boring. It's nice to see other positions represented. How long do you think it will be until we get another defensive Heisman? That would be
to get one to win. I have no idea. I think Chase Young had a pretty good chance last year.
That's true.
But to get one to win the Heisman, I don't know. It's already been so long. The last one was Desmond
Woodson,
Howard.
Or was it Howard? No. Well, would it be Woodson?
It probably would be.
It would be Woodson, right? Because I think it's the only.
That is still the only.
Yeah, I think so.
Winner,
yeah. But even a candidate, just the candidates we get are so few and far in between. But anyways, back to Trask. He going into that game against Arkansas, who Arkansas had the second highest ranked pass defense in the SEC, and Trask was without number 1 target and tight end Kyle Pitts. Have you watched Kyle Pitts at Florida?
Yeah, he's done pretty good.
He's insane, right? He's a tight end, but I think he's listed as a tight end, but he moves like a wide receiver, and he's built like a large wide receiver. I don't know. He's a hybrid.
He looks like Noah
guy.
Fant to me. That's the most comparable guy. He just is he's just an oversized receiver.
He is. He's huge, and he can block. So, like, when you get on the outside, he's blocking for you. But anyways, he was without Kyle Pitts, and he still put up those numbers with Florida, who's very talented. One of the top 10 teams in the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're somewhere up there. He has made a name for himself. But the other Heisman right now, ESPN has Mac Jones from Alabama leading the Heisman conversation right now with 55 votes. He is just ahead of Justin Fields from Ohio State. And Trevor Lawrence, coming off of that COVID quarantine, is in third and will be back from this weekend. They're playing Florida State, so expect that to be an absolute rout of Florida State. Yeah. And then Kyle Trask, who we're talking about, is at number 4. Zach Wilson from BYU has dropped a bit. He's at number 5. It's not like they've lost. Zach Wilson continues to play his caliber of football, which is insane, but they just it's just their strength of schedule or what?
I think that's going to be what it is, and I think that's what the Heisman race is going to look out to be, and that's also with like the AP poll, and they're going to look at their strength of schedule, who they've been playing, and Zach Wilson just hasn't been playing the caliber of players that Mac Jones has, so that's really going to factor in the voting and the race in general.
Yeah, when you get ranked teams every weekend, Justin Fields, let's look ahead here. Ohio State's got Indiana, who's currently number 9 in the country this weekend, and I still don't think it's going to be a close game. I don't even think that Indiana is in the same league as Ohio State, even though there's only like 5 spots in between where they are in the rankings. I don't even think they're in the same league of football, the same caliber of football, and that's why it's so crazy that the top 4 teams, I guess you can make an argument for like top 5, they're in a league of their own, and they're like nobody is even close to catching them right now in college football. I don't see there's any way that Indiana beats them. If they do, more power to them. But Justin Fields and that offense and their defense has stepped it up in the last couple weeks. They look so good, and Indiana has not proven themselves. That overtime win against Penn State week 1. Remember that overtime win where Michael Penix Jr. dives to the pylon in OT? I was going for 2, right? Yeah. And they win that game against Penn State, who's been such a powerhouse. I think they were like number 5 or 8 in the country last year. Last year, they were that good on a prominent, national level. They're 0-4 for the first time in, I don't even know.
It was like the 60s or something like that.
Like that program with James Franklin, right? Head coach. Yeah. He, by the way, a little side story here. When I played against some kids in high school who were getting recruited by Penn State. James Franklin flew in on a helicopter to watch these kids play.
Yeah.
Just flew in and landed. And then you know what? Halftime, game was a blowout. Got in at halftime, took off. We out.
Nice.
That is sick, dude.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get when you're James Franklin.
That's so sweet. I mean, it's been awesome to play against guys like that. I know I was watching the Michigan State game, and when I'm looking out on the field between Michigan and Michigan State to say that I've played against, I think, 6 guys on the field in high school, I was like, that's so sweet.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Just to be able to say I played against those guys and like even won a couple games against them, like that's so cool. But to get back on topic here, back into the Big Ten, Penn State, what is going on? I really don't know what's going on. And they're Indiana, back to them. They're gonna get blown out by Ohio State. Do you see that going any other way? They beat Michigan State 24-0 last week. But Michigan State has shown that they're a very mediocre team, especially when they turn over the ball. It just magnifies their mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see that game going any other way than Ohio State by 1 million?
I don't know. I definitely could see it being close, but either way, I don't see in any chance that Indiana beats them. No. It's just the deficit that's probably going to change.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I think that's fair. Wisconsin, they did not miss a stride. 2 weeks of no football operations. Obviously, 3 weeks without that starting quarterback, redshirt freshman Graham Mertz, and that's why they deserve to be one of the best teams in the country. If you can go without having any football operations, we're talking about not even being in the facility, no lifting, no conditioning, no player personnel, anything in the building. The building is shut down for 2 weeks because of that COVID scare they had in Wisconsin. That's in Madison, Wisconsin, right? In Madison. That's why they're one of the best teams in the country, and they have a big-time game this weekend, too, Northwestern, who is at number 19 in the country. Northwestern has had a much better season than years past.
Yeah.
And I think they deserve their ranking where they're at because of teams that they've beat. But I don't think, again, I think Wisconsin is coming off of that 2 week stint without playing football. I think they deserve better than number 10 right now, just because they haven't been playing. They don't have any, you know, as much games and much film under their belt for the AP poll to take into consideration. Where do you see that game going?
Obviously, I see Wisconsin coming out on top. I think Northwestern, like you said, is doing a lot better than they have in the years past, but they still haven't done that bad. I mean, last year was, you know, a pretty bad showing for them, but I want to say the year before they made it to Big Ten championship against Ohio State.
Yep, that sounds right.
So
that was Jonathan Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Wisconsin, obviously, coming off of 2 weeks where you are not playing any football, not in the weight room or anything, just how much like fatigue and like just
timing wise too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You're gonna lose so much gains that you were making in the weight room, that you were making in, like, you know, conditioning, you know, getting your stamina up. You're just gonna lose all of it in 2 weeks. Like, you have no idea how much you lose in even just 1 week.
Yeah, that's true.
Just going back into the weight room after 1 week is still just, you see how far behind you're.
Yeah, like we work out on our own, being shut down and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
If we had a team workout tomorrow, or like in a couple hours, we'd go in there and we get our butts kicked.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
We'd be so out of shape and we wouldn't even know. Like, I go, you know, we can go run and lift and do whatever you want, but if you're not doing it with your team and like with a coach there who's motivating you and pushing you,
it's just a different tempo and a different feeling.
So much so. I want to talk though about Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach at Northwestern, who's been there since 2006. By the way, I didn't realize he's been there that long. Like, that's his baby, like his program at Northwestern. And another side note, their new practice facility, $274 million right on Lake Michigan there.
Oh, it's sweet.
Oh, my goodness. I was at the first camp. Since the construction of that, I was the first camp in that building. You know, I unfortunately didn't walk away with scholarship offer, obviously, because I'm here. But jokes aside, like, that place is incredible. And that campus is incredible. They have some of the academically best student athletes in the country. That school is very rigorous. But Pat Fitzgerald, good guy. I shook his hand at the camp. He, you know, I made a good play. I think he gave me a attaboy, a little slap on the butt as I went by, something like that. But I'll never forget that. He's a good dude. It's great about him on the sidelines. He's a player's coach. We talked to Coach Robinson, who's very much that same mindset to be one of the guys with your teammates and all of that. And he's joking, mingling with those guys. But as soon as that whistle blows, he's back to the hard ass of a coach. He's like the dude. He's going to get in your face and he's going to make you go past whatever boundary that was, or like push past whatever. He's going to make sure that you are, you know, helping the program as much as you can and you're breaking all those boundaries. But he's been a great coach for them. And I think this year for him, obviously there's a huge connection there. He's been there this is his 14th year. Yeah. Like, imagine being at a Division I program for 14 years. But they have not had the success that would warrant, I think, a 14-year tenure for a guy like that. But it'll be interesting to see this year and to see that he's proving that the program is heading in the right direction, because if they don't have proof of that in the next couple of years, we could see him possibly ending up either somewhere else or just retiring. Yeah. Because he's had a long career coaching at a bunch of different spots. So that'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Excuse me. Let's get into some NFL talk from this weekend. And the number one storyline from the National Football League is Alex Smith and his recovery and his comeback to the now Washington football team. It's kind of funny, when he left, they were the Redskins. Now they're the Washington football team. But they played the Lions this weekend, and it was a very Lion-esque game, being up 20-3. Yeah. And just kind of toying with the fan base and with the league to see, you know, maybe we'll blow it, maybe we won't. We'll figure it out. You know, and eventually they did win it, 30-27. But before we get into talking about that game, let's talk about Smith and the timeline of his recovery that brought him back to the NFL. So grab a drink, take a seat. This was the long one. November 2018, the then Washington Redskins, like I said, are at the top of the NFC East at 6-3 behind Alex Smith when he sacked against the Texans and suffered a, quote, spiral and compound fracture to his tibia and fibula in his right leg. I do not know what that means. I know the fibula is one of the worst bones to break in your body and one of the most painful and one of the most difficult, I believe, right? Yeah. Just to actually break it. But to suffer multiple different types of fractures to both tibia and fibula, it just sounds horrendous. And it definitely was. Smith had to undergo a total of 17 surgeries. Originally, it wasn't supposed to be that many, but he had an infection in his leg that complicated the initial procedure. And then I guess it just turned into a snowball effect almost of just procedure after procedure after surgery. And he was finally seen in September of 2019. I actually remember watching this, walking without crutches. And shortly after that, ESPN released what they called Project 11, which was a documentary about his recovery in May of 2020. So that was kind of right before his return to actually playing football. And we got to see almost a Michael Jordan-esque Last Dance, but like without the actual playing. It was just like his road to recovery. And I think they did a good job of showing not only like physically this dude was out of it, but like mentally, like what you have to do to even stay like within your own head and like have the perseverance to actually come back to sport.
I saw kind of a similar documentary, and there was a Kobe Bryant documentary back when he tore his Achilles.
Yep.
And it was like the documentary was like just strictly like his mentality going about that recovery with that surgery, because you know the Achilles is another back-breaking injury, obviously not nearly as
to the extent
like life dangerous as this, but it was kind of like the same just mentality, showing what these guys have to go through, especially because this is how they feed their families. So just showing that rigor and
good word.
Yeah, exactly. What they have to go through on that day-to-day basis, trying to recover from those types of injuries.
Yeah, and Kobe's mentality obviously is put on like a pedestal above everybody else.
Just second to none.
Seriously. And I think that's why that was awesome to see from Alex Smith's perspective, is he had something very similar. Obviously, like you said, totally different cases. Like this dude was potentially about to lose his life, and his mindset to persevere and come through this. He finally makes it back to the field, and he was the number 2 quarterback for the Washington football team after over 600 days away from the game. We were just talking about Wisconsin and how it would suck to be away from the game from 2 weeks, barring any life-threatening injuries. 600 days away from the game at a professional level, and he comes back on October 11th, and he got his first start this past Sunday against my Detroit Lions. So he was number 2 behind, was it Dwayne Haskins, right?
Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah. So since has been benched for Alex Smith, who got the start on Sunday, and to tell that whole story, I think that's just awesome. He said he wanted to come back because of his love for the game, but mostly to show his kids how important it was to bounce back and overcome adversity in life. Man,
that's a big, powerful.
Just take a second, like holy cow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like his mindset, and I've seen a couple different interviews and sit downs with him talking about his injury and his recovery, and he has just said repeatedly, like, how am I supposed to expect my kids to, not give up, or like just
how are you supposed to tell your kids and look them in the eyes and say that
if you didn't do the exact same thing?
Exactly.
And I'm sitting here, part of me sitting here like, oh yeah, he's got a great point, and the other part of me sitting here like, dude, you could have died.
Yeah, like that. I feel like that's at the
like homie doesn't want to do his homework in 3rd grade, like. He didn't break his fibula. Like he's gonna be all right. But like, no, I think that's awesome, and that message is.
Well, I think that kind of just goes. His kids are not gonna have any excuses anymore. And I think
kids are done.
Yeah, like they just can't make any more excuses. Like, you know what? You don't want to do your homework. Well, you're not fighting for your life, so get back on it. Like, that's just the end of the story.
Did you have a spiral and compound fracture in your tibula and fibula?
Yeah, honestly, they're not even going to need to say it anymore, because they're just going to be like, all right, yep, I'll be back.
That's awesome. He just sets the bar unrealistically high for his kids.
Yeah, exactly. Now they're just like, they don't even need to make any more excuses, because they'll just do it right away.
You know who didn't care about his comeback story?
the biggest, Matt Prater.
You know who didn't give a crap about Alex Smith's comeback story? Matt freaking Prater, baby. Yeah. The Lions, Patricia, was like, you know what? I'm going to piss off all these Detroit fans even more. Let's blow this 17-point lead in this game against a team who has no business even playing with us, being on the same field as us, the Lions. You know what? Matt Prater doesn't care. Game-winning field goal. He's the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, which I think is the 22nd time in his career that he's gotten that honor. And
dude's just insane.
I think it was funny. I was watching the Pat McAfee show, my favorite show out of all shows, and they were talking about how Ninja, actually, the Fortnite player, was calling out all these kickers in the NFL, and they were like, well, maybe Ninja, because Ninja is notoriously a huge Lions fan, and he's like, Ninja's really been spoiled Like the kickers for the Lions over the past, I mean, the best like 3 or 4
Oh yeah,
regimes.
we've had great kickers.
That like potentially the best players and most consistent players on our team has been kickers.
Yeah.
So like Ninja's been spoiled into thinking that kickers just make kicks all the time and that there's not a large process that goes into actually kicking a football.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I thought that was super funny. Like we've just been so like the franchise has been terrible, but
not
our
like the
kicking game for some reason.
Always consistent.
It's there, man.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
there. But Washington was driving down the field late in the fourth quarter to set up that game-tying field goal, even after 5 straight incompletions from Alex Smith. So he throws 5 balls that are not caught by his receivers, but the thing that kept that drive going was Desmond Trufant, who in the secondary, he had a pass interference call and a holding call on back-to-back plays. This is why the Lions lose games, because even when the other team is not performing, we find a way to somehow, I don't know, give them a step up and help them out almost.
Yeah,
like that's ridiculous. And he was like literally on the drive previous to that, Trufant was getting in one of the younger defensive backs' faces and just like yelling at him about a blown assignment or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like it's great to have him back, and I think he's made an impact on that defense. But his impact right there was terrible.
Yeah.
Like that was bad. That was really difficult to watch. That was almost as bad as the well, actually no, it wasn't. But the like the ghost face mask call on Rodgers to set up the
I don't know if it was as bad as that.
No, it definitely was not as bad as that. But that has that same feeling to it. Or like at least until he won, thankfully. But like that had that same feeling to it.
Yeah.
Like this is gonna set up why we lose this game.
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford with an injured hand in that game. I want to say it's like his thumb. I want to say was something about his thumb was bothering him.
I feel so bad for this dude. Like honestly, just like week in and week out, year in and year out, I just feel bad for Stafford.
Dude is like injury prone, more so than so many others in the league.
It's not even that. Like it's literally just.
And what he's had to go
I'm
through.
surprised he hasn't had more. To be completely honest with you, just what he's been going through, I'm surprised he hasn't had more. And I'm sure, like, to him, an injured hand, like everybody's like, oh, he's got an injured hand. He's like, dude, this is like, somebody just accidentally found out about this.
He almost broke his back last year.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like, I don't know. That dude is definitely built for that Detroit.
It's like a little crazy
team. Yeah, exactly.
It's a little.
I have a question for you.
Something's off up there.
If you think so. Say Patricia wins out for the rest of the season.
Oh my God.
Just theoretically speaking, do you think he keeps his job?
If he wins out?
Do you think it is possible in any way, shape, or form for him to keep his job?
Dude, if he wins out, like you're talking regular season or like are we talking playoffs?
Well, I don't even know if it's possible. Could they still make it to the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think the only way that he keeps his job is Super Bowl.
Dude.
Honestly, I think that's the only way.
If they get a playoff win, Patricia's coming back.
They actually
even with a playoff
just
berth.
one. One. He can win wild card, and then he'd probably still keep his job.
If they got a playoff berth, there's a chance that he comes back. Just with any other ownership, I'd say no. But with our ownership and their inability to make their lack of an ability to make gut decisions and
they're just incompetent.
Their incompetence. With any other ownership, I'd say no. But with ours, I would say if he makes a playoff berth, they'd be like, well, we can't fire a guy who's just brought our team to this level of success.
Just give him 8 years.
8 more.
Yeah.
It'd be ridiculous. But Stafford, you said like the amount of stuff that he's been through. We already saw that game-winning drive against the Falcons this year that I thought was going to spiral us into a streak of winning against a bunch of mediocre teams. Unfortunately, that has not been the case. No. But Stafford, with that injured hand, I want to say it's a thumb. He made the most. He had 16 seconds after Detroit got the ball back with that field goal, the game-tying field goal from the Redskins. Couple quick completions in the middle of the field, off to the sideline, being cognizant of the clock, and then got them into that field goal range for the kick.
I would say Stafford, Rodgers, and Brady are both very – actually, I would say Wilson too, but Wilson hasn't been making that case recently, which we will talk about a little later. But I would say those guys really just know how to manage their 2-minute drill. They know how to – start it off with a quick completion and then just roll on from there.
It's a mindset, man.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't really even matter how much time they have. As long as they have time for like 2 plays, they're at least going to get a field goal out of it. And you just know that as a defensive coordinator. So it's just kind of like, well, here it is.
Well, here it is. But yeah, he has said when in his little press conference after the game, he said that when he picked up the ball and was like feeling the ball before they went out there, he just said something fell off in his hand. And the dude's probably got like something really messed up in his hand, but he was
He's
like,
probably got like 3 fractures.
yeah, like a ligament is
but...
just like in 2 completely separate places.
Yeah.
But he said something fell off in his hand. So hopefully, T's and P's to Matthew Stafford. Hopefully he's back. I mean, he'll be back, but hopefully he's back at 100% this weekend because, without him, I don't know where this team's going. Maybe it would be a good thing because that would mean that Patricia will definitely be gone. But let's stay in the NFC North here. Monday Night Football, Vikings, Bears. Vikings get the win, 19-13. And one thing I saw, actually, before we get into a lot of the game talk, the Monday Night Football crew, all of them chose the Vikings. And I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I chose the Vikings. I mean, I was riding with the Vikings too. Like if I was a betting guy, I'd bet on the Vikings. But I'm not. But
just had to look at the camera. Just had to make sure I'm not.
But they all chose the Vikings, and I thought that could have been, I don't know if the curse is the right word, but just like a bad luck, bad karma for the Vikings. But they pull out that win, and the Bears' offense has never been more non-existent.
I would like to say it has never been, but that is, I don't think that's true.
149 total yards of offense and no offensive touchdowns.
Yeah,
wow,
it's bad. But I did see this going the way it did.
Yeah,
I think the Vikings
agreed.
The way that they were rolling and what they've been doing in the NFC North, it's just kind of been a statement to kind of what Mike Zimmer is as a coach.
Very true.
And I think it just goes to show you, because after the win against the Packers, people were kind of saying they were putting Mike Zimmer on the hot seat for coaching. And I think Rodgers in one of his interviews says it's just insane to me that people think that Mike Zimmer is on the hot seat because
That's ridiculous.
because he is a great coach and he does know what he's doing, but I think he does need his players because when they were plagued with injuries or just people out when Dalvin Cook was out. I think he does do a lot with not even that great of players. I mean, obviously Dalvin Cook's a standout back, but Kirk Cousins
has his up and
has
downs.
his ups and downs.
But now their receiver core is kind of leveled out.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
Some big time targets, obviously with the addition of Justin Jefferson. But you've got a guy like Thielen, who that one-handed catch in the end zone was unreal.
And that is just one dude that I don't think is going to be like compared on
a Division II player.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's stop right there and appreciate that.
He played here.
Division.
Well, he didn't play at our school, but he played against us at some point.
Minnesota State, correct? He
Something
played at Minnesota State on a $500 scholarship. And he actually came, and one of his games was at Northern, and I know that because we've seen pictures of him in the Superior Dome where we play, and that's so cool. Like, that dude's unreal.
I remember just scrolling through Instagram and then seeing a picture of him, and I was like,
wait a minute.
And then I saw, like, the wood in the background, and I was like, what the? And then,
largest wooden dome in the world, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And then I saw some banners, and I was like, there's no way.
That's
and
it, dude.
It was kind of sweet to look at that.
That was super cool. Another target for them was Rudolph, tight end. He had a big-time game for them. But back to the Bears, the red zone gave them so many problems. They had to settle with a couple field goals. They started the game off with 2 field goals. Then they had that really nice kick return from, who was that? Cardell something? I'm not sure. But the kick return coming out of halftime for the Bears was huge. And that was really the only reason they were in that game. They took the lead right there, like 13-9 or something like that. I want to say somewhere in that range. But if your offense just does not produce, this game could have been cracked open even more so, and it would have been if Dalvin Cook had the same impact that he's had the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, his impact was very minimal. I mean, you said you kind of saw how this one was going, but did you see Dalvin Cook going into this with under 100 yards on 30 carries?
Obviously, it wasn't what I was expecting, but I do know that the Bears have a very good defense. And,
yeah, they do.
That's not anything to knock about their team, and I think that's probably the strong suit of their team. And I didn't think that they were going to be able to run all over them because I would even say that the Bears have a better interior defense than the Packers do, even though the Packers have been doing way better. And I think that's just attributed to their offense because the Bears' offense is nowhere near the Packers' offense.
No, it is not.
So, obviously, if you look at how Cook was going to play out against both of those teams, I would say the Bears he was going to have a little more trouble with just because
front seven wise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So but I did not think under 100 yards was going to be the ballpark for him.
No,
I did think it was
30 carries.
And yeah, that's
He got,
that's
like,
the bigger thing.
He
Is
got
that
a
he had
ton of touches. Like, he was
30
getting his helping of the rock.
So I think just with that, I still think Dalvin Cook's going to be fine. And same with the Vikings. And I don't think Cook is necessarily even going to care because, you know, his team came out with the win and that's all he's going to worry about. He's going to go on to next week and still play with the electrifying, you know, ball play that he brings to the table. So, but obviously Kirk Cousins stepped up with what, you know, he's been doing in the past and just kind of filling in for Dalvin Cook, you know, distributing it to all of his targets. He just had under 300 yards and then, you know, testing the secondary of the Bears, and I think that was the biggest thing for their win.
It was like a glimpse into the past of like the Kirk Cousins that we know and love that we've seen in big time games.
You like that?
You like that. We like that. We like that win for the Vikings. Yeah. I mean, both of us do, but even from the Lions standpoint at the bottom of the NFC North. But looking at Kirk Cousins, and he had that streak for a long time of not winning on primetime television. Remember that?
Yeah.
And that was like the storyline was like Kirk cannot win in primetime. So I think, I don't know if this is the start of like getting over that hump for him and like just a strong streak for him. But I will say for the Bears defense, you know what helps? That would kind of help Dalvin Cook, you know, keep him in check.
What?
11 guys in the field at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a big part.
That might be one of the reasons why we did not see a 70-yard breakout run like he did against the Lions.
Maybe.
But the Vikings started fast in that game. They really never stepped off the gas. Like I said, that kick return for Chicago, if that doesn't happen, that could have been a totally different game. I think it would have been
for sure
a totally different game for them. But you kind of hinted at it earlier. Let's talk a little bit about Russell Wilson and that MVP conversation.
I mean, honestly, Russell Wilson was showing a ton of promise in the beginning of the season. And I'm not going to say that he's not playing at a high level. Because
but his team has kind of reflected that change too.
Exactly. And I think you saw with the Seahawks, they started off, you know, undefeated. Kind of same trend with the Packers. They started off really high, and then they just lost a couple games that it was like, what's going on here? And
they kind of leveled out. I think is the right word.
And they lost to the Cardinals, who has the other MVP candidate, and I think is Kyler Murray.
I think after those last couple of weeks, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think actually their losses have come to the quarterbacks that I think are higher than him on the MVP race, and I think that's Kyler Murray and Josh Allen.
Interesting. You think Josh Allen is still above him?
I would put Josh Allen above him. Honestly, that might be just a little reflection of I'm just a fan of Josh Allen. And
That's fair.
Think he is a great player, and I like his demeanor. But I would honestly put him above there just because of the transition that he's made in his career. This is his third year, and he's just progressed, and he's really put like the Bills on his back. He's done a lot with them, obviously with the help of Stephon Diggs as his main target and guy that's able to go up and make the plays for him. But Josh Allen's got a big, powerful arm, just like Patrick Mahomes, and I think those guys are going to be, the two quarterbacks that we're really going to be looking at in this MVP race. Yeah,
shoot. Josh Allen's a great quarterback, but he also raised, he put together the last $15,000 for this, but they raised over $3,000 in response to, I want to say, it was for a children's hospital, I believe, but it was in honor of his grandmother who passed away. So Bills Mafia comes together, $300,000.
Yeah,
and I think that is something that obviously have one of the most passionate and just awesome, all around awesome fan bases in the world.
Exactly.
In Bills Mafia, and for him to have, I guess, earned their respect in a way, right? Like he's their dude, and they embrace that, and they're gonna come together for a great cause. I was like, that's beyond football. That's so awesome. And his play, I mean, on the field too, like you said, has been absolutely insane. What I didn't even put down on here, I don't believe, is the Hail Mary. We haven't even talked about that.
Oh, but from Kyler Murray?
Yeah, from Kyler Murray. It just jogged my memory right there. So DeAndre Hopkins with that Hail Mary, and then like the memes about like the Jordan branding above the Adidas and the Nike gloves and all of that.
Yeah.
Man, we didn't even touch on that. Like, what did you see out of that play?
In
that
Kyler
game
Murray had
too.
He rolled out of the pocket and just hucked it deep, and that was like triple coverage. I want to say
Dude,
it wasn't
it was triple coverage.
It was
all triple
literally
coverage.
so congested, and the fact that D-Hop was able to just go up in between all three of them and come down with that was just like, that's like a Megatron type play.
Exactly. That was the
And
comparison that it drew.
Yeah, I don't think he has the physical traits that Megatron has. So
Different play styles for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And to see him go up and do that is just kind of like, yeah, this dude is a top receiver in this league for sure.
Dude, yeah, top, if not the top. Now, did you also see, because obviously Megatron was asked a lot about this, and then he also, in one of the interviews with him, turned to a different direction, and he came out and said that Aaron Rodgers was recruiting him when he was at Detroit for a long time.
Okay.
Did you see anything about that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I saw that too, but I think that would have been the demise of the Lions.
Dude,
I don't think
that would have been the demise of the NFC.
To be honest, yeah, that would have been horrible for the NFC.
Dude.
That would have been like probably the worst thing to happen in football at that point. That would have been like Golden State just bringing in all like the studs.
And I'm glad that we've gotten to see this like character development, I guess, from Rodgers and how he's been much more outspoken, because personally, coming from someone who like in the past, I wouldn't say I like hated the dude or anything, just because like just like rival whatever.
He's
like,
not a very,
that.
Especially out of other teams.
Yeah, he's not a well-liked guy.
Him.
But I think in the past he's kind of changed. I don't think he's like put that narrative on its back, but he's definitely changed it a bit, and he's been a bit more outgoing and just been more presentable and like just like personable. I think is a great word.
Yeah,
now people get to see other aspects of him and like Aaron's life.
I do think like he is definitely not an easy guy to like in general. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I always lean more towards Favre as the reason why I kind of like the Packers more. I do think Rodgers is a better quarterback in general, but I think I would just rather sit down with Favre just because of the fact that he's just like a more well-rounded dude. Yeah. Rodgers, I don't think is a guy that's like easily likable.
And he wears Wrangler jeans.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, but you know, the one thing that you just can't knock about Rodgers is that he's a great quarterback.
Never, yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily put him up there as like the top personality that I would want to be around.
You didn't put him up there as one of the MVP quarterbacks too, did you?
I think he's up there, but I didn't want to make it seem like that was like me just being the Packers fan that I am. I obviously I would love to see him win the MVP. I would awesome. Love nothing more, but I think that would just be more of a knock to the other guys and the play that they have.
That's fair.
I think Rodgers should be in the conversation, but
Agreed.
Whether or not he will be is just subject to change at this point.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you, Zach. It was great to have Alex on, talk a little bit of football, college football, NFL. Shoot, we got a little bit of everything in today. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if you somewhat remotely enjoyed this episode and our stupid banter about the sport that we love, please tell a friend. Go out and tell family members when you're sitting at Thanksgiving. Right, when you're sitting at Thanksgiving and you're eating that turkey and all of that great Thanksgiving food, you lean over and you tell your uncle that you see twice a year. You know, I listen to this great podcast called Division I Rejects, and I think you should check it out. But thank you, everybody, for watching on a serious note, and go watch some great football this weekend.